Awesome. So today we are joined by Kirt Phillips, the founder and CEO of Core Commissions. I'm really excited to be able to have a chance to learn more about Core Commissions because I have not yet seen Core Commissions, but I do know that Core, or rather commissions in general, from my agency days, were a major stress point. The little anecdote that I always give is that we would get paid by our last carrier on the 26th of the month, and that meant we had to stay up until payroll reconciliation was done so that we could run payroll the next day. So Kirt, it sounds like you're going to solve that problem and many others. So thanks for giving us some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Casey.
Yeah, awesome. So we already talked a little bit before we started. So you're coming to us from Portland, or from the Portland area, rather. So sorry, Vancouver, Washington, which I love the Northwest, and I feel like it's a hotbed for a lot of insurance and tech-related solutions. So can you tell us a little bit about core commissions and what might drive an agency to need your solution and what they would be able to do with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Any kind of commissions but especially agency commissions always starts with data. And they have a lot of variables that have to be organized to automate the process. And to your point that in manual methods that are still common today, there can be a lot of manual labor. It could stretch on into gets right up against that payroll deadline, which also could affect the accuracy of the output. And there's also a trust element when it's very manual, not necessarily very organized. And so what we've created is an application that takes all those variables and all that information and organizes it in a structured way so that the data elements, they're all visible, they're all graphically displayed at every step of the process. It gives total transparency to the end recipients, folks like yourself that would have received that check, about not only what you're being paid, but how you're being paid. And if you have any questions, you want to dive deeper into how the calculation was performed, all that's available in a couple of button clicks in the application.
Okay, that's awesome. So in terms of the agencies that you work with that love your solution, what are the most common problems that they have that are driving them to you as a solution, like in a really specific kind of way?
We've seen a lot of complexity in the plan requirements. So sometimes you've got a variable rate based on maybe a performance metric. I've seen plans that had dependencies of down upstream calculations like 8 levels. So to get to the final payout, you had to do these other calculations that link to other sources of data. And when you're trying to do that in a spreadsheet, it's just laborious. It's just very error prone. And that's what our system is designed to automate and provide transparency and visibility to.
Got it. Support is always a big issue. Not, I shouldn't say issue, but it's always a point of concern whenever an insurance agency is signing up with a new solution. In terms of how do you support, or how does Core Commissions rather provide support when agencies are trying to get that information out of their management system and overall just managing the entire process of collecting commissions and then getting their people paid appropriately?
So the application is very intuitive, and we do have AI embedded throughout the application, so you can ask it for guidance on any kind of function. But there's nothing like talking to a real human being that's experienced the same kind of problems. And so support is extremely important to us, and we really pride ourselves on being very responsive to our customers. We have a trouble ticket system. You can ask our AI bot supports who have been trained in everything in the app. But if you don't get the answer you need, or if it's just not making sense to you, we've got a trouble ticket button. You hit that, and in minutes, you're going to be talking to an expert in the system who can give you real human being guidance.
That's awesome. Yep. I definitely encounter that when we're working with agencies that need help from a solution provider and having access to talk to somebody. I think it's important to be able to leverage automated tools, of course, like for your side and for the agency side, because they might be doing something after hours, but having access to a person is great. So as you're working with customers, as you're working with agencies, onboarding them, what are the biggest surprises that you hear from those agencies that are trying to adopt your system?
What we often hear is that they were actually shocked at how much time they did save. We've had customers who have told us what used to take them a week or more, they can do in less than half a day or even a couple of hours. And then not only does the automation save an enormous amount of time and prevent manual errors, but then you have the transparency of being able to select any record And we have automated auditing features in the application that will take you step by step through each one of the calculation steps that the system performs. So you can verify visually and graphically, yeah, this is doing exactly what I want it to be, especially if you have questions from your agents about, hey, this doesn't match what I thought I was going to be paid. You can output this, send it to an agent, and it'll show them exactly why it was produced the way it was.
Gotcha. Do you ever have situations where an agency was not being paid by the carrier appropriately and you were able to help them solve that?
Yeah, absolutely. We see that quite often, and we have pre-built tools in our agency package that will show you what you expected to be paid, and it'll project out based on the policy and the term and all that sort of thing. It'll project out what the expected payment is, and then it'll actually display right next to it what the actual payment is. And then you can sum all those in a report. It's automatically summed in a standardized report. And then you can go back to that carrier and find out what may have changed. Maybe the policy was termed, or maybe the insured skipped a payment, but you can get to the bottom of why it wasn't paid the way you expected it to be.
Gotcha. Gotcha. What's the most complex commission plan that a customer that you work with has ever needed you to manage? And how does your system manage those complex types of commission structures?
So we have a drag and drop plan designer to where you just drag on a function. Okay, I want to see data. So you grab on a data function and tell it what data you want to see and what range of time you want to look for that over. And you set it and forget it. So you only set it up one time. And then the next function might be a filter function. So you drag a filter on. So unlike Excel, where you're having to type in all these different formulas and you have to move columns of data over and different kinds of manual operations, this is you're dragging on an object that's going to do that for you and basically telling it what you want it to do. So this plan only applies to this agent group, and we also want to only apply it to these types of policies. Maybe it's new policies or maybe it's renewals. And so those are just a couple of drop-down selection clicks, which takes the complexity out of the filtering and all those kind of operations. So once you build that plan, and again, you only build it one time, and then it just runs by itself every time you run a new cycle. That provides you graphic visibility into what those calculation steps are. And you can edit it or alter it at any time you want to. So if your plan changes, we have what we call versioning. And a lot of times that's where complexity comes in. You may want to pay up to a certain, let's say we want to pay up to June this way, but starting in July, we want to pay a different way, but most of the elements the same. We have versioning where you could just click a new version, make the minor changes, tell it when to start. And that way you don't have to worry about what period of time each one of these different versions is going to run. The system's going to do it for you. So those are some examples of complexity that our drag and drop rule designer and our versioning and our advanced features make very easy to handle.
Okay. Yep. I can definitely relate to that on some outside of commissions worlds where we're building certain automations or integrations. And if we can go back to prior versions for whatever reason, oh my gosh, that's super helpful. So in terms of like tangible value, I know that you already mentioned the amount of time savings that core commission can add to an agency or to provide to an agency, but do you have some like real world, real life examples of other cost cutting that agencies might be able to benefit from as the result of implementing core?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of hard to measure what didn't happen. But if you look at when the manual processes where somebody forgot to copy a formula down and it created this fire drill where somebody was really upset they were paid incorrectly or weren't paid at all, those are the kind of things that it prevents that you just don't see happen anymore. So if you were to compare like the fire drills pre-core and the number after, you're going to see a stark difference. Obviously, time savings is huge, but another enormous time sink is generating reports and distributing out to the agents and the other supervisors and others that need to see that information. In core, that's automatic. There's literally a single button click, which will then expose all that data out to our portal where an agent logs in. They'll see their specific information. Of course, they won't see anybody else's, but maybe the owner or the manager of the agency will see a greater set of data, all of which is configurable. Report generation, distribution, and all the different dashboards and analytics that go along with that. You might want to see what your churn ratio is. You might be wanting to track, what your premium growth is over time or for different business units. All of that is built into the system that you don't have to try to massage that out of a table of data. You just click a dashboard and it's going to show you that information.
Gotcha. And I think I have one question I like to always ask too is the integration capability of Core. Can you talk to us a little bit about what types of systems do integrate directly with Core? And that way agencies might know if there are any specific integrations that they're looking for, that may be something that we can help them find.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a public API, which means that if someone wanted to integrate with our application and they wanted to initiate that on their end, they can use our API and do that. But we can also connect to any vendor that has their own public API. And an agency management application like Agency Block or some others, very common to integrate with their API to where we can download that information directly. It's an automated process once you configure that import so that you just set the time you want it to kick off and it's going to launch by itself at the predetermined time, run out, grab that data and pull it across, and then can do whatever we need to with it, run a commission cycle or even distribute reports from there. I would say 90% of the applications out there are carrier aggregators that pull carrier data together, and they all have an API that we can connect to. And we can also push information out to payroll providers as well. We're a Gusto partner, we're a Paychex partner, we're a NetSuite partner, we're partners with a lot of financial applications where we can push that information out to them to automate the distribution of payment as well.
Okay, awesome. I think we're about at time, but Kirt, are there any other points you wanted to share or things that the agencies might be thinking about that would help them determine whether or not Core is a possible partner? And by the way, we will of course share your information about how they can get in touch with you, but anything else that we should make sure that we mention?
I guess I would stress our commitment to support, which is a real differentiator. There's nothing more frustrating than when you have a problem, you need it solved against a deadline like a payroll deadline, and you can't get a hold of someone. And at Core, we're Johnny on the spot. We're going to be responding in minutes. We're going to solve your problem. We're going to stay with you until it's solved. And automation's great, but again, there's nothing like that talking to a real human being that understands the problem.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your partnership. I think that commissions are something that a lot of agencies definitely are doing the old way or the hard way because that's just the way that they've always done it. And we're going to do whatever we can to try to continue to let agencies know that there's a better way out there. And Core is definitely going to be something that we can help steer them to. So thank you so much for your time. And thanks for teaching me about Core today on the call too.
No, I appreciate your time as well, Casey.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Kirt.
Bye-bye.